Is it wrong that I no longer want to date people who engage in a specific hobby? Okay, I already know what the hobby is, but I'm not going to tell you until the end.
Okay.
Because I kind of want to know what you think based on just, this general idea, and then also exactly what this thing is.
Okay.
I've dated multiple people who had the same particular hobby, and every single time, those people end up all having the same character flaws or issues within the relationship and their own lives. Additionally, the hobby presents things that tend to conflict with my values and morals, and then this becomes a source of conflict within the relationship. It's to the point where I want to cross off anyone who's really into this hobby just to avoid repeating history. However, I also feel like that's pretty extreme of me and discriminatory. Am I being too extreme, or is this reasonable? I feel bad canceling people out over something they're interested in.
Do you want me to guess the hobby?
I feel like first, say your take based on just that. Like, it could be a sport, it could be a job, it could be like it could be sewing, it could be running, like regardless of what it is. Like, do you think that that's a good reason to like categorize people?
I mean, when you said running, listen, I just think some hobbies really are someone's entire life.
That's a good point.
And take up like every Saturday, every Sunday, every after work, before work. And like, if it was sewing, like I would say no, because what the heck?
Yeah. My first thought is like, yeah, it's bad to categorize people, because just because everyone in the past who's done this doesn't mean that everyone in the world who does this is like that.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I don't even think I just said a full sentence.
Yeah.
Did I? I don't, whatever. In a way too, it's like if it's a group activity and the culture in this activity tends to be a certain way, then maybe you can categorize people and it is more fair to do that. Whereas like sewing is kind of like a one-on-one, like it's just you.
Yes.
You don't have to be surrounded in the sewing culture. You can kind of make it your own. Whereas if you're ingrained in like recreational sports, like there's no way to avoid that culture.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about hiking is a good example, because when I was on a dating app, I would see a lot of profiles where I felt like their whole personality was hiking. And I'm like, you might be like the nicest guy of all time, but like, you're maybe not for me.
Okay, I used to say that I used to be really into surfing, and I would be like, oh yeah, I want to date someone. I'm like not even good at surfing, but just the whole culture actually.
Yeah.
I love. So I used to be like, oh, I don't want to date someone who doesn't surf. And then I kind of graduated to say snowboarding or skiing. And people would be like, oh, but don't discriminate, like blah, blah, blah. I kind of feel like those are valid, at least for me, because I'm going to use snowboarding or skiing. Like if it was running, I think that in my opinion, in my life, I can be like, yeah, you can go run alone. I could run alone. We don't have to be on the same level. We don't both have to be into it.
Yeah.
Our life doesn't revolve around it. I mean, I guess maybe some people's does, but mine doesn't. So whether you run or not, sure, whatever. But skiing and snowboarding, like I want to plan my life around it, because in the winter, I want to go on ski trips. Like I want to budget for a ski pass. Like I want to not make plans and then go and spend like a week or two in this ski town. And so if someone that I'm dating or married to doesn't ski or snowboard, that's going to be really hard. And our lives are going to not be like completely compatible.
You think?
I think so, because what if I married someone that was a diehard surfer, and so we lived on the East Coast in the summer? We were snowbirds maybe. We could go to Florida or Puerto Rico for the winter, or we could go to Colorado for the winter. They would choose Puerto Rico, I might choose Colorado, something like that. Or what if they're really into like, I don't know, it doesn't matter, anything else, and every weekend of the winter, I want to go snowboarding.
Yeah.
Are they going to be mad at me? Am I just not going to see them for 5 months?
Okay.
That's kind of how I see it. And then I also I think there's hobbies that you could want to do with your partner, and then there's hobbies and activities that you are fine with doing alone.
Yeah.
So that would just be something that ideally I would want to do that with a partner, because I think it's more of like a lifestyle choice rather than a hobby that's just like a hobby.
But I guess you both would have to be like die hard then for that hobby. Like it's not just something you do sometimes, which is why I'm like there are levels to these things.
Yeah.
'Cause you could love, there are some people that, love running and it's not their whole life and they're not super in the culture of it. And same with surfing and skiing and snowboarding.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But I guess to your point too, if you're both die hard at these things to the point where it changes where you live, then that's adding a new level.
Or not even where you live, but the vacations, the trips that you choose to book.
But what if the person doesn't do it, but they find something else to do in that area when you are on the slopes?
Yeah.
Or do you want them to do it with you?
I mean, ideally they would do it with me, but I think if they were perfect in every way and the only thing like wrong with them was that they didn't ski or snowboard, but they told me, oh yeah, I can have fun in the lodge while you're on the slopes, I might be like, okay, that's fair. But I don't know. That just might be an activity that I would want to do with a partner. Because like it could be dangerous to go alone. It's just, I don't know. I guess I wouldn't like totally rule someone out if they were perfect in every way. But it would definitely be a check on the pros if they had that on their resume.
What if they were like willing to learn?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like willing to, because I'm not good. Like I am still very like beginner. So I'd be fine with that. I don't know. Yeah, I guess I wouldn't rule someone out, but I do find myself like having that as a thing that I want. And I'm sure like, I don't know. Yeah. I'm sure there's some hobby that I might be like, okay, I'm not into that.
Right. So what was this girl's hobby?
Okay, this one was video games.
Oh, see, that is interesting because, I don't know. That's hard.
It's hard. I think that with video games, like, I think a lot of people get judged a little too hard, a lot of men.
Yeah.
Because it can be so easy to sit around and be like, he just plays video games with his friends. Yeah. I go on TikTok. Like, I have a puzzle book that I do. I just downloaded a coloring app onto my phone.
But I guess with video games, for some people, it just takes over their whole life.
Yeah.
But see, this is also, you're right, it's like a judging thing because it's like, well, it's not any different if surfing takes over your whole life, but surfing's like cool.
No, that's such a good point.
Yeah.
No, that's such a good point. In past experience, I did date someone who loved surfing and they prioritized surfing over literally everything. Mm-hmm. And it was one of the reasons why I was done with it. And I was into it for a long time. Yeah. But it just got to the point where it's like, if you're doing this activity and I'm sitting here alone watching you, we are not hanging out. Like, we're not spending quality time together. Right. It would be like if he was sitting there playing video games and I was on the couch next to him. That's not really quality time if you're like in the headset with your friends and in this game and I'm sitting here alone, like reading or on my phone or something. Yeah. So it kind of like doesn't even matter what the activity is. If you choose to prioritize it over everything else at all times, that's the actual problem. Right. And not sometimes. Like, I think people are allowed to do whatever they want sometimes, but it just can't be in lieu of the quality time that we should be spending together. Yeah, and I think with video games, maybe the issue is it's easier to be addicted to it versus something like surfing. Like, you could do it at any time. Yeah. All night. And it doesn't require like physical exertion. Mm-hmm. So at least with other things, you're getting exercise and you're getting snatched. That's true. That's true. So I could see how video games is like more of a problem. Yeah. I also can see how the culture, like she's saying that every person that she's dated that's been into it has this like characteristic. I do think that there is a lot of negativity because I've just heard from so many people, including my boyfriend, people just talk shit. Oh. And there's so much like negativity, like people say like really just bad words to each other. It's a culture thing. It is. Choose your culture wisely. But I do think that some people can engage in it from time to time and they're able to take a step back from it. Sure. Some people don't have a line. But that can be true with every hobby because I've met surfers who are so annoying. And I haven't met that many snowboarders because I feel like even though you do it in a group, it's more of like a solidarity thing. Like you don't really talk to people, you just have your headphones in. But I don't know. People can be annoying in every hobby, but it doesn't mean that everyone in that hobby is annoying. Even if 5 of them were. Even if all the ones that you've met were, still doesn't mean that everyone that engages in it is like that. That's a valid point. That was a cool discussion. Yeah. Okay, wait. So what's the question? Is this a good reason to not date someone? I think that's up to you and how obsessive the other person is. Yes. Ask them in the beginning, like, is this your number one passion? Or do you just like to play sometimes, a few hours every few days? Mm-hmm. And then make your decision from there, because I could see how it would be a turnoff if you just dated someone and this was your number one problem. And then the next person you meet is like, I love video games and nothing else. You might be like, well, I can't deal with that. Yeah. Because it's so like, it's such a sore spot for you. Yeah. I think it depends on the person. It's hard to. It depends on the age. Like if someone is so into a certain culture, they're just not going to change at a certain point, I don't think. That's true too. You know. Yeah, I think it depends on the person. Yeah, me too. I think you shouldn't rule someone out completely because they do this. Mm-hmm. That's where your judgment comes in. Mm-hmm.